Let's see.
Nice.
Are we? Yeah, we are. All right. Cuckoo. Oh, where do we get that chat? Okay.
I'll just keep watching the chat again here.
Perfect.
Nice.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it was a one-time thing, who knows? One-hit wonder. But I think it'll be fun.
Nice.
Hi, Kernal.
Nice.
To share this.
Do you have 2 live streams going by chance on YouTube?
Yeah, maybe so.
I see UI UX best practices, and then I see the UI UX live stream.
Destinations.
So,
I'll end that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right,
15
we're
were
streaming
watching
on.
the best practices for web, so I'm sure that's the one.
Yeah. Cool. Perfect.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back. Hopefully you tuned in yesterday for Flutter Forward. We're able to see some Flutter news.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had that whole Flutter conference was so cool. I mean, Tim Snaith and just demoing the different applications and the possibilities of Flutter 3.7 was really awesome. Watching that authentication demo though made me appreciate FlutterFlow so much. I mean,
Yeah.
it was not necessarily painful, but like I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to do this. Like, this is incredible. I could just toggle the switch on and get authentication. So, I mean, like they said, authentication is hard. FlutterFlow makes it extremely easy, which is a lot of fun. So, very cool in that way. And it was really fun to build that AI art generation app with Shovik and Sophia. So,
yeah, if you didn't tune in yesterday, you can go back to the Flutter YouTube channel and watch the Flutter Forward, full hour-long live stream there. And then what Andrew was referring to in terms of the AI app, we released a full tutorial, about 30 minutes, featuring some of the FlutterFlow team members building an AI image generating app. So you can find that on the Flutter YouTube channel, also reposted in our community. So community.flutterflow.io. You can find it there. You can also find it on our Reddits, on Twitter. So we try to spread all over the place. And you can try out the project, but even clone the project. Isn't that right, Andrew?
Yep. You should be able to do that. Both of those things.
Nice. Awesome.
So, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us in this little UI UX live stream where we hope to teach and pass on some knowledge and best practices that we implement in all of our applications in FlutterFlow. Hopefully all the sample apps. If you weren't here last week and missed an intro, I've been doing product design for 9 years. I've worked on 150 projects before joining FlutterFlow. I had a whole agency that helped launch products into the marketplace. And so I have all that experience. I would just like to share some of that with y'all. I really enjoy FlutterFlow. I enjoy building in FlutterFlow. I think it's the future of development. I think the product development cycle is broken, and I think FlutterFlow can fix parts of that. That's a personal opinion. I don't hold FlutterFlow to that, but it's a personal opinion. I really love it, and I love what you can accomplish. So I want to teach as many people as I can how to build in FlutterFlow and how to build these sort of complex layouts, especially with the web now being a little more stable, and we're rolling out a bunch of improvements to that. So, and there's more to come. So some of this stuff will be dated in a few months when we improve our responsiveness. But, for now, you can still build robust applications. I'd much rather build a web app in FlutterFlow than in competitors. Personally, I know
Agreed.
I'm biased, but
Agreed.
yep,
Nice. No, I totally agree. And we've heard that a lot actually from people, which is pretty cool. And especially as we release
yeah,
new features and continue to build that up, I'm sure it'll only grow.
yeah, yep. So I want to. I'm gonna try to share this. Let's see. So this is just a small. Oh, I am sharing that. Give me 1 second. Okay. This is a small itinerary for us today. I want to showcase sort of a demo of a web app that I've built in FlutterFlow that is totally responsive, and it does a number of things that are very cool. One is a Kanban board in desktop, and it's tabs in mobile. It navigates from a page view in mobile to a modal in desktop. Um, so there's plenty of cool things. And again, this is like in product design, designing responsive apps is really hard, and designing well-designed responsive apps is hard, right? Like, so just passing on any knowledge that we have to help you guys improve your design, and the way that your users interact with your apps is the whole point of this. At some point, we will probably try to get into backend and how to set up stuff. That's not my area of expertise. Will is a lot better at that than I am, and we have developers on our team that are way better than both of us. So at
For
some point,
sure.
we'll try to do that. But Will and I both like building in FlutterFlow, and so we just want to pass off some of that knowledge
Hmm.
and the love of it. So I'm going to demo this Kanban board. I will switch the views to, I think,
Awesome.
this guy.
Cool.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I will zoom in. First, I'm going to do this. Take up more of that screen. Oh no, why do I have this? Oh, I bet you I fudged something up. Anyways, so this is an application I built in FlutterFlow. You can see it live, and I'll post the link in the chat as well. You guys can really like
Awesome.
mess around with it. So let's see. Here it is.
And if you don't know what a Kanban board is, super popular. Just think of it as like a task manager, right? So not a little more complex than maybe just a to-do list where you're just listing items. You can
Yep.
organize it in different columns, rows. Andrew, I'll let you continue to describe it there. But
Mm-hmm.
super valuable for most companies and a lot of
Yep.
applications built with Kanban
Yep.
boards.
Yeah, totally. And if you're familiar with Asana, Jira, uh,
Mhm.
Trello, Notion as well has this sort of Kanban board view. Very popular, but hey, I wanted to see if you could build it in FlutterFlow. Was able to accomplish that. It doesn't have drag and drop, which is like one of the things, but you could build this for you could build that in with some custom stuff, no problem.
Mhm.
But as you can see, this sort of responds down. Let's see, it goes to tabs, and you can change this. Like right now, I probably have
Mhm.
um, this little guy. Yeah, so it's just on mobile. So we could actually showcase this, or we'll remove that on the small tablet, as well as this mobile. We'll do that there. Kanban tablet, do that there. So
Nice.
that'll give us a better view down
Nice.
here. And that navigation sort of disappears. That's one feature of this app, right? This is one page. I mean, you would just go from a list view that's horizontal. We created, oh, let's see. I think that's a spacer. So in this list view, we have a card. And in each of these cards, we have another list view where we actually are grabbing that um, the the backend query, and we're filtering by the progress or the status of this task. And I'll actually showcase the app right now if that's cool, because it's really cool to see sort of this in live.
Mhm.
So let me drag this guy over.
Nice.
So this is that view. You have a team, projects. You can dive in. This is another thing that I
Wow.
want to sort of approach how to build this. So in desktop mode, sometimes it's superfluous to go from page to page like it does in mobile.
Hmm.
And so what I typically do with my web applications is my detail views will appear in a modal or a bottom sheet, or like in a sidebar, which we would call an in drawer. Um, Currently, it's a little harder to accomplish that in FlutterFlow, but bottom sheets fairly easy.
Yeah.
And you can actually see this. So when you scroll this down and you click, this actually does navigate to a page, and I'll show off how to do that.
Nice.
Um, but for now, you have this. You have your completed tasks. You have a whole activity stream, which is fun. You can add different users to the project. All of it works. On the My Tracker, you can view tasks.
Nice.
You can post updates. You can also add people to a task. So that's another view. We can see our notifications. This is my favorite. This took me a while to actually build, but I figured it out. And I would like to do a tutorial just on this, like how to do notifications for multiple people,
Hmm.
and how do you mark it as read, unread, stuff like that. So, but this is sort of the finished project. You can create tasks like um, start a live stream.
Nice.
This is really great. We haven't started it. Our due date is today. And we'll just create that task. Start the live stream. Begin the task. And then
Very
we'll
cool.
see we have activity here that I've been moved in progress. This is a lot of
Wow.
complex stuff, but it's a lot of fun to build. Um, and this is something that we're trying to demo as a FlutterFlow sample app, so you guys will have full access to it. It is a public link, so I will also share the project link. You guys can clone it um, if you guys want to mess around with it. So,
Nice.
please just remove my Firebase if you could. That would be great. But yeah, so little things like if you saw when we clicked a task on mobile. Oh, this is actually a tablet view, so we don't have it here. Um, so this view is actually for the tablet and desktop, and then we have a view specifically for mobile on this page. On the project page, though, we actually have. Oh, I probably didn't do it here either because I do have a grid view here. All right, we'll cut that. There is a way to where you can use the same card and access pages on mobile and bottom sheets on desktop. It's a small conditional based off of screen width. So I'll just show you what I would do if I was going to do that. So here we have our navigate to a bottom sheet, and let's go ahead and zoom in. We'll add a conditional here. Condition is screen width greater than or equal to specific value. We'll just do 768, which is a typical like tablet portrait view. And then we'll move this guy up, copy that, paste it here, move it down there, and then we'll add an action here, navigate. We want to go to a project details page. We'll just pass that reference in there. Cool. So this is a conditional you can place on a single card. If you have sort of a grid view or maybe a long list view in desktop, and then you have that same list view in mobile, and you want to navigate to a page in mobile, which is a common navigation practice, and then on desktop you want to pop up a bottom sheet. Now I use bottom sheets for detail views, like I said, like user details, project details. This was like a task detail, just because there's simply not enough information to utilize the whole screen width. So presenting it simply in a bottom sheet or in a modal is a little better, right? There's a plethora of ways to do it. Right now, like, if you had a bunch of information that you want to display, a graph along with the task and everything all at once, right? If you want to separate those tabs that we had in the project details,
Hmm.
you could, right? Like on this
Nice.
little guy, maybe on desktop. Well, not in the task, but in the projects.
Nice.
So in this project, if you wanted to create this desktop page and you separate these tabs so you can see a list of all the tasks and activity right next to each other, you could do that, no problem. I enjoy just viewing it in a small modal, and yeah, that's one way that I do it. But this is the conditional you
Nice.
would use to sort of navigate to those two things. We don't need it because we actually have a desktop view that is a grid, and we have a list view for mobile. Um, so as you can see here, when we come down, we'll actually see that list view, and then it'll just take up the full width. Um, Now, this is the
Nice.
way I enjoy building currently. So, like our current sort of um, way that we create, um, yeah, responsive designs is that our wrap widget doesn't really work in regards to like creating complex grids, right? Like that you could in HTML, CSS, like Flex and stuff. Now, don't see that as a limit. It's an opportunity for us to grow. That's a great thing. Currently, what I'm doing here is I do a grid view, and then on these cards, I'm setting a. Oh, this is a wrap widget. I am using the wrap widget here, and I'm setting the cards on a max width or a width, so they always take up that space
Nice.
and height here, and
Nice.
that way they don't get so large on um, desktop, because that's another thing. Our grid views, I would love to set a max height on those things. If you guys have used grid views, they get sort of large. So using a wrap widget like this and just setting a max or a width for your cards, being able to scroll down, and then utilizing another list view here um, is one way that you can accomplish this. And you could actually accomplish
Nice.
this with just a wrap view. So,
So to
but that's one thing.
showcase, yeah, to showcase another
Yeah.
example of maybe what Andrew was showcasing with utilizing the conditional statement, the max screen size, and then setting two different actions to occur. Another example of that could be something like Twitter. Think about using Twitter, if you're familiar with Twitter, on the web versus mobile, right? When you click the tweet button on the bottom left-hand side on web, it just has a pop-up that appears, right? Because you wouldn't want to take the user to a completely different page. There wouldn't be anything to fill that page with. But on a mobile device, you would want to take them to another page because they need to have all the upload details, all of that. So that's an example of where if you had a button right on web, you'd want to take them to a pop-up, and then on mobile, you'd want to actually take them to a completely different page. If you're just thinking in terms of use case here.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. Um, and this question was interesting. It depends on what type of multiple items you want. You can create multiple records for two different collections. Currently, you can only
Mhm.
create one item per collection. So you can do this with a cloud function. It does take a little extra work, but it's possible. But yeah,
I do
currently
have
not
a
with the same
yeah.
collection.
There is an interesting workaround that I've found. I
Hmm.
wouldn't recommend it for all your applications, but for testing, if you're trying to get away with updating, for example, if you're trying to update two user records, right now, right, you can only in an action chain update a user record like one time, right? A workaround that you could do that I've used just for testing, like I said, I wouldn't put this into production, but from a testing perspective, take a timer widget, place it somewhere on the page within that area, turn the font size way down. I turn it to like 0, 1. I change the color to transparent. And then I set the timer widget to like 100 milliseconds so that, and then I set any additional, like if I need another user change, I'll set that action on that timer widget. So that way in the original action chain, I'll have a update to maybe the user's collection. Then I'll trigger that timer widget. The timer will go off in, a split second in 100 milliseconds, and then it'll carry out the remaining actions as well. Like I said, strictly for MVP, testing, I wouldn't put that into production, but if that's something that you want to like test around with, you could do that.
Cool. Perfect.
Yes.
Little hacks like that, gold nuggets. So, last time, yeah, like creating something like this is fairly complex, right? Dashboard page, maybe multiple column layouts. How do you make it responsive? I just sort of wanted to go through and showcase how I would do this personalmente. Page responsive in every device. Thank you. Yeah, I'll do this. Oh wait, no, sorry. Somebody posted right before that. We do have a FlutterFlow beginner tutorial. So explain the steps how to make a page responsive in every device. We'll go through this right now. So yeah, this will be perfect. I will actually build this page in FlutterFlow, and I will sort of showcase how I would do it, and then make it responsive as well, like nav bar, top bar, spacing, this 5-grid layout up top. It's going to be a little difficult to make it respond on all devices, but we're going to make it work. 2-grid, 3-grid, right? This is all fun stuff. So I will do this, and then I will show you how you can make it responsive as well. So this is great. This is why we have this, these sessions. So I'm going to move my Figma over here so I can view it. If you want to handle, Will, if you just want to handle all those questions and everything, I don't have I'm not being able to see it.
You've got it.
Let's see.
While you're creating that project, a couple questions I had so far. Michael asked, do the page view and bottom sheet utilize the same base component? They actually could, right? So you could have components that you build and then just have it maybe wrapped in a container or something. And then when you trigger a bottom sheet, right, that container appears. But then if you want to navigate to a page, you would just show that container within that page, right? So that's one way to optimize your designing, is just design one base component and actually reuse it across different pages, across different, bottom sheets, wherever you would utilize that. Any additional comments there, Andrew?
Yeah, I would say I also like for some of those applications, I have a profile page. If you look at the Artser project, we actually have like a profile page that is a page on mobile, but it's in a modal on desktop. And I actually just created that page as a component, right? Like the column that everything is in, I just created that as a component and put it into a bottom sheet that I created. And so if I edit that profile in the component, it appears and the changes will be updated in both places, which is it's not really a hack. It's optimizing your workflow, right? Like not housing that in two different things, but showing it in two different views, depending on the device size. One of my favorite things. I really enjoy that. So nice. I don't really like this theme, so I'm going to do this holiday theme. That'll be good. Cool.
Nice.
My logo doesn't really go, but everything else does. Okay. Cool. Back to building.
Another person had the question, when is the Razorpay integration launching? So there's actually a blog on a non-native integration with FlutterFlow that you can read. It's pretty lengthy. Shout out to Shovik. on our FlutterFlow
Yeah.
team for taking the time to, one, do all the research, two, type all the code, and three, create a blog around all that code. So you
Yeah.
can find technically how to integrate Razorpay, but we do have a big announcement coming in February that'll be pretty exciting for most people
Yep.
involving Razorpay. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. I'll just say I created an icon that may have had the Razorpay logo on it. But
Nice.
all right,
Nice.
cool. So we have this little guy. I'm gonna take this side nav and I'm gonna create a component. Um, there, that's good. It has everything baked in, responsive visibility. So the
Nice.
way so somebody wanted to see how um, you know, how we make a page responsive. So the first
Hmm.
thing you need to learn is responsive visibility. So when I select this container here, as you can see, there's a little device on here. If you come over to the right properties panel, there's responsive visibility. If you don't want something to show on a device size, just go ahead and toggle it off here and it won't show.
Hmm.
Good news, if you have a backend query on an element, which most things will have backend queries, or
Hmm.
typically, right? That's the benefit of building apps. So like that project view, right? I had uh, a backend query for the web view, right? In those three different cards, and then I had a backend query for each page view as well. When you hide the view, so like the page view, when it's hidden on tablet and desktop, it does not query those three. So we're
Hmm.
only querying what we see. We query it twice probably when we expand and collapse it, but if you're on a desktop, you're only going to query those three backend queries, and on mobile, you're only going to query the three or four, I guess, backend queries.
Nice.
So if it's hidden, from my understanding, I talked with the dev team, we don't make that back end call, which is superb, right? That's a
Hmm.
benefit to our the way we handle responsive visibility and stuff. We
Nice.
will get more editing ability for different properties on desktop, tablet, mobile. But for now, this is the way to sort of do it, which is still a pretty good way. I mean, it's not bad. You can do it. I've built multiple web apps in FlutterFlow and made them responsive or like tablet views and mobile views fairly easily, which is super cool because you can do all of that. Um, but yeah, now I'll just sort of
Hmm.
keep building. You answer those questions.
Nice.
So, and oh
While
yeah,
you're, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, you're good, dude. I was just gonna say again, we have a row here as our base element on the page so that we can stack things
Nice.
horizontally. Um, so now I'm gonna get a little column so we can actually stack stuff in the right side. And another thing that I would suggest, um, cool. Thank you, Benjamin. Um, in so on these sort of like major content views, what I typically do is I wrap them in a container. And what that does is it allows me to set a max width um, to the content, right? Like if you look at the Artser app, we sort of wrap that feed in a container and then set a max width on it. So it doesn't matter how big you're not going to see a photo take up the whole screen. You don't have that ability in columns and stuff, but in containers you have a lot of flexibility.
Hmm.
So what I'll do is like expand this and then just set a max width of, since this is going to be a content view, we'll do like 1170
Nice.
there. And then as you can see, nothing really changed because we actually need to change the alignment to 0.
Hmm.
And then we should get that to actually expand.
Nice.
And yep,
That
there it
looks
is.
great.
Little hack. Make your apps look really good. And I'll just remove that background now.
Awesome.
And if you want this stuff to go all the way up, there's two ways to do it. On the row, you can do, well, I guess there's one way to do it. Take this container and also set the vertical alignment to the top. So, okay. How is
Sarah,
the
you
screen
asked a
quality,
question.
guys?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, Will, you're good, man. You're good. Keep it.
Hopefully it's better. You said 1080p this time, and it looks like it
Yeah.
on my end at least. So But
Cool.
yeah,
Perfect.
please go ahead and comment if there's any stream issues.
Yeah.
Sarah, it looks like you said, say you download the code to GitHub and make changes to it. Would it compile in FlutterFlow? And would I be able to continue to develop the app in FlutterFlow? So one of the recommendations I would make is to use our new CLI. So FlutterFlow has a CLI, and you can also, to make it even easier on you, one of our team members, Abhishek, released a VS Code plugin. So if you search FlutterFlow code export, you'll be able to find that plugin. And all it's going to ask for is the API code, which you can find in your settings profile when you log into FlutterFlow. Also, your project ID, your project name, and just a few settings. And you'll be able to download your entire code base to your device and utilize it. Then you could, from there, maybe initialize a GitHub repo. And then any changes you make on your computer, you could continue to do so. But if you make changes on FlutterFlow, all you have to do is just pull that code again, either using the plugin or if you also search FlutterFlow CLI, you'll find the tutorial on Google as well in the community in the What's New section too. Just type in that little code, pull the code changes essentially that you made from FlutterFlow, and you'll see those changes on the side if you've initialized a GitHub repo. So hopefully that should answer your question there. Just adding a lot of customization to development when it comes to FlutterFlow.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah,
may have
Andrew.
noticed I put a random
I was
container
just
up
gonna say
here.
it's crazy how quick you can build these things out. It
I'll
is
try
really
to go
fantastic.
slower. Yeah. But yeah, I built this like little spacer up here for desktop. I'll just remove it on mobile. Reason being, we'll probably do an app bar on mobile to where, all of this stuff is sort of in the app bar. And then this card will just sort of float up naturally. So little
Nice.
trick as well. Hey, this.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share as well that VS Code plugin just to make it easier for you, anyone watching here. So I'll pop that in the chat. Flow code export plugin.
And I'm going to, well, I'll actually utilize this line color because I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to use a row here. You could also use a list view and do it horizontal. We've set a max height. Sometimes it's difficult managing horizontal list views and tab views and stuff like that. Typically, when you have a set height for a container, um, you'll have stuff interact a lot better. You won't get as many errors or, hey, you can't build that
Mm-hmm.
in FlutterFlow. So yeah, but we're going to use a row here, and we're going to use cards in the rows, and then we're going to expand them all, and then we'll actually just duplicate that and do a mobile view in a column instead of a row. So I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of what we'll be doing,
Nice.
but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So
Andrew, I notice you typically use light mode in FlutterFlow, and I think that is the one spot where we tend to disagree. I am a dark mode person all the way when it comes to FlutterFlow. When I first registered, I got used to it, and I don't think I've maybe hit the toggle one time ever.
I'm
Why?
glad.
If you just always use light mode, was there light mode? Maybe I don't know. Then maybe this is some
Oh
FlutterFlow background story. Was light mode first, and then they came out with dark
no,
mode later? Or?
no. We designed
Wow,
FlutterFlow in dark mode. We actually released light mode
nice.
like sometime last year, which if you had read the
Wow, okay.
timeline, 22 Wrapped, you would have seen. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we released this sometime last year, and
Nice.
I don't know. We didn't think we could make a light mode that looked good, and personally, I sort of like it. I don't mind the dark mode. Last year,
Yeah,
last week, I did develop in dark mode, which was
fair.
fine. I just sort of want to show
Yeah,
off light mode, I guess. So
nice. I just wondered.
Yeah.
Everyone has their preference. Mine seems to be the dark mode, at least when I use FlutterFlow.
Hey,
So
yeah,
nice.
not bad. It's fine. So
Nice.
I'm gonna do, yeah.
In terms of adding breakpoints, that's been a discussion. Andrew, I'm sure you can answer that question a little bit better,
Yeah.
just because you've been around longer than I have. But I think there has been discussion around potential breakpoints. But obviously, right now we do have
Yep.
the just pre-chosen devices on that right side as icons that you could choose to disable or enable. But do you want to touch on that a little more?
Yeah. It has definitely come up where you can basically define your own breakpoints.
Mhm.
And that way you can sort of stylize based off of those breakpoints. Um, we've just discussed it so far. As I said in the beginning, there's a way to sort of get around that. You can hide stuff based off conditions.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do it now, which is one of the reasons why we haven't prioritized that in the backlog. We prioritize
Mhm.
things on how difficult is it to do in FlutterFlow now? Is it possible? If it is possible, like, okay, how much time will it save you people? Which this will save people time. Um, and again, it's probably going to come in that new update of responsive updates that we'll do later this year. So
Yeah.
just keep that
Nice.
in mind. Yep. I'm going to do some padding there. Just duplicate this.
And Andrew's
As you can
also been
see, we
hard
have.
at work. Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew. I know you're
Oh,
describing your design, so I'm just
you're good.
narrating over.
Totally. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So right now we have these as set widths. What we'll do is we'll expand them, which will make them, you know, sort of retain whatever space is around them, which will look better on desktop. So like as we sort of go like this, like that, as you can see, like it's a little better. We could actually use responsive text if we wanted to as well. We
Mhm.
could remove this height now, and then they will just adjust. Right, we're going to make this
Nice.
look better. This is what it currently looks like. We're going to make this look so that it doesn't look like this um, when you go down. But
Great.
yeah, I think we can make, if we detach this holiday theme, we can make this text responsive. So we have mobile type sizes and styles, tablet. We probably make this like 36, 28, 4. Same thing on desktop. Let's make this like 50, 32, 24. Um,
Nice.
let's change this to top 2. Looks better.
If you're just joining us, yeah, we Flutterfly had a great week this week. We presented live from Nairobi, Kenya, yesterday at Flutter Forward, so that was really exciting. Our two co-founders were able to present FlutterFlow live, showing off the NASA API. So if you're interested in watching that video, you can head on over after this live stream, of course, to the Flutter YouTube channel and watch a review of Flutter Forward. Some awesome content there about what's coming with Flutter itself, an intro to Flutter Flow as well. And then Andrew and some other team members with Flutter Flow released a fantastic tutorial, very professional tutorial, I might add, um, in essentially how to build an AI image generating app. So you can also find that there, just searching on YouTube. Basically, how to build what is it? No code experiences with Flutterflow, or build out
Yep.
complex experiences with Flutterflow, using
Yeah.
Flutterflow to build out mobile experiences. Some I'll have to look up the exact title, but
Yeah. It is. It was a lot of fun. Um, that just going to Google and being in that studio was like mind blowing. I mean, it's not like something that I do every day, which was a
wow,
lot of fun. So,
nice.
um, sorry, I'm trying to replicate this stuff. Let's see.
You're good.
I'm unexpanding these boxes currently because it will break when I try to convert this to a
Mm.
column if I don't. So I'm going to replace that. There you go. Perfect. And now we can go back and we could, set these to infinity width and
Nice.
probably put some padding on them. Move this padding. This will be our mobile view. So
So the question that's on the screen right now, I built a web app and want to offer a mobile version of it, but the design is different. For example, the navigation bar. So if you go to settings, you can actually adjust um, the
I'll
what am I
show
looking
you.
for? Yeah,
Yeah, the nav bar and app
yeah.
bar settings.
You can
So
adjust the
I'll
responsiveness. That's
yeah,
what I was looking for.
I'll show this to you.
Great.
That's part of this sort of yeah, that's part of this whole thing.
Mhm.
So um, let's see. Two.
In one way, I know you mentioned something like Framer, right? So Framer is interesting. It's split up into different views altogether. The interesting thing you could do in FlutterFlow, right, is set up different components, really set up your pages via components. And then you could use those components across different pages to make things responsive or hide entire sections just by toggling on and off that component. So hopefully that makes building a little bit easier so you're not individually selecting every widget or things like that. That would definitely not be a good responsive design technique. Um,
Yeah,
Try to actually choose the largest item in the hierarchy. So, such as like a container or something like that, when it comes to really setting up your responsive design.
yeah. And I just hid that column view. I'm going to do this. This is the desktop view, so I'm going to hide that so that when we come down here, we have that. And really, you could probably do this in a grid view if you wanted to,
Hmm.
or a wrap view. Um, so those are both things that are also possible. Since this is a different view, we can actually adjust this stuff, right? We can make these
Hmm.
rows. Maybe like there's some padding on this guy, so it
Nice.
makes it a little difficult, but you could do this. You
If
could
you want
spray
to,
some.
when you have a second, remove that comment from the screen.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. That way, just everything might be a
Cool.
little bit. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow,
Yep.
that looks
And I'll
great.
show you that. I'll show you that right now. We'll go to settings here on the nav bar and app bar settings. When you do have a nav bar, when you do want to have a responsive app where it's native, right, to have a mobile nav bar, and on desktop maybe a sidebar or a top navigation bar, which is very common for responsive
Mhm.
applications. Um, you can turn the nav bar on here, and we have responsive visibility. So when you are developing, as you saw on that sort of Kanban, if you were around on that Kanban board, I had this
Mhm.
turned off on desktop and tablet. Same thing with the app bar, but you still saw it in the builder. When you deploy the app or run the app, you won't see those things. But
Mhm.
in the builder, they may show up. But this is how you toggle on responsive visibility, um, where you just have a bottom navigation bar for whatever device you want. I would do tablet and mobile.
Mhm.
And then on desktop, since we hit it for the landscape tablet and the desktop, um, we have this little guy come up, and this is our
Nice.
navigation on those two. So you do have to set it up sort of custom. I did this as a component. You can go back and watch last week's live stream. I think it's like maybe the 10-minute mark or something. I sort of go through how I set up customization for a component, so
Mhm.
that you can have different selected states. So that's a good thing. Um,
Nice.
awesome. I'm going to leave this for now. Ideally, I would make everything like this so we take up less space. Um, but for
Mm.
now, sake of time, I'm going to build this 2-column layout here,
Great.
uh, and then we'll be good. So I'm going to just.
Nice. When it comes to some other questions, and keep them coming, this is really great. Really interesting comment. I like where your head is going. Joseph, apologies there if I mispronounced it. I think that's an interesting question, Andrew. What are your thoughts on this? I know as you're building, almost having two views, right? So you could enable a web view and a mobile view side by side. I'm sure you wouldn't be able
Yep.
to edit both. That wouldn't really make sense in terms of something like FlutterFlow or Flutter, but maybe just editing one core page and then having like two maybe semi-transparent views or something to see how it would look. So you don't have to continuously like toggle between.
This
That's pretty
guy.
interesting. Yeah, that's an
Okay, okay. Sort of like
interesting
how Framer
concept.
does it. Yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
yeah. I think we're taking the Webflow approach, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And sorry if I mentioned competitors and it's not okay. But yeah, like just the view of okay, you can change the
yeah.
view, right? Whatever view you're on, you're editing for that view.
Hmm.
Eventually, we would like to get to that place. Currently, you can
Yeah,
edit, like I said, like yeah, well, yeah. When you do responsive visibility, I guess it is like that, right? Like we're not seeing the mobile view
yeah.
here; we're just seeing the desktop. So,
Nice.
um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
we
an
haven't
interesting
really thought about
question.
that. There is a really cool. I did tease that I was going to release something about storyboarding. I mean, maybe there's a feature coming up that is very cool. But yeah, uh, that will be. It'll really provide some clarity on how your app interacts and works. It's super
Hmm.
cool. So
Nice.
um, another thing that I'm doing, just a small UI tip, right? Corner radius or border radius and drop shadows instead of elevation. Elevation is very stark and doesn't necessarily look. I don't think it's polished personally, right? Like when I look at an app and it has just elevations, it looks a little janky. But I do
Agreed.
like drop shadows. I like the ability to edit those drop shadows. I utilize our template drop shadows all the time. Um, and that's how I'm going to be doing all of these cards. So,
Hmm. Nice. Another question. Only one app bar or nav bar is allowed in a project, right? Yes. So in terms of
right.
the app bar at the top, I would say yes. Obviously, you could remove it from different pages if you want, customize it per page. For the nav bar at the bottom, so that's a little bit more complex. In the FlutterFlow marketplace, if you explored that, you will see some custom nav bars, which might feature, center button. I think that's one of the most downloaded projects right now or most used.
Yeah.
So technically,
Yeah.
you can create a custom nav bar and, for example, add conditional visibility to hide it when the keyboard appears, so it doesn't move up, right, and still appear. So that's one way, I guess, if you really wanted to customize it per page. For example, if you wanted to create the Instagram effect, right, where in the profile icon it shows the person's profile image. That's an example where you would need to create a um,
Yep.
custom nav bar, right, because you need to pull data into that icon, a container image. Or if you wanted to show a notification icon on an icon in the nav bar, maybe that's sometimes where you need to build out a custom nav bar. Let's see what else. The best way to handle state in Flutter or Flutter Flow in this case, that's also something we're really working on as a team here. So stay tuned for February. We have some big announcements coming up just for state management. So hopefully you'll be excited for some of that. And the way you can stay tuned is either following us on Twitter. We actually hit 10,000 followers the other day on Twitter. I think as of Flutter Forward yesterday, we hit 10,000, 10.1K followers on Twitter. So that was pretty cool. You can follow us on our Reddit forum as well, r/FlutterFlow. On the community forum, community.flutterflow.io. You can follow Andrew or I on Twitter. I know we're tweeting all the time. A personal plug there, just about FlutterFlow and different design techniques and things like
Yep.
that. Lots of ways to get involved in the FlutterFlow community.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to just do a table here. We'll
Nice.
build this view. Ah,
And keep those
all right.
questions coming, right? We'll try to
Yeah.
reserve some of the last few minutes to answer those as we did last week. So any questions you have, I'll be writing those down. If we don't answer them right now, I'll do my best to bring them up at the end.
Yep. Perfect. Uh,
Webflow, though, idea for the team, something like CSS styles. So you could do conditional styles, actually. So there's a little set from variable text above specific colors, and I think there's talk of changing that. Is that correct? To an icon instead of text. That's exciting to make the UI a little bit cleaner. But you could technically do that now if you wanted, right? You could click on that conditional visibility or conditional statement of if the viewport of the device is, 7 or 10 or 1,000 or 720, then you could set one color, vice versa. That's one way you could do that right now. That honestly might be a little bit easier than CSS, to be honest. Every time I go into web development, I know I'm always looking up how to add the breakpoint CSS again, because I always forget the typical breakpoints from a CSS
Yep,
perspective.
totally.
Nice. Andrew, this looks great. Yeah, if you're tuning in here for the last 10 minutes of the live stream, Andrew's been building a responsive dashboard live, right? So on web, you can see what it looks like right now. And then, as you continue watching here, there we go. You can see it changes its format for mobile. So a great, preferred technique, obviously, nowadays when it comes to responsive design.
Just
Nice.
move these little guys. Cool.
Awesome.
And I use these, this little guy. I just created new templates yesterday for tables, responsive
Nice.
tables. So, yeah, I mean, technically these would be like dynamic. Dynamic data. But for now, for the design aspect of it, this is all wrapped in a list view. So if you just like select this list view, you can backend query this and then connect all of this stuff to data. And then as you sort of go down, you should be able to get into my list view. I don't know why this isn't
Nice.
scrolling, but it was scrolling. All right.
All right.
Yeah, it should respond, right?
Nice.
So we have all this data, and you'll have to adjust it, right? So to your font sizes, because it's designed in one font size. This is a different theme, so
nice.
I'm just going to do some, and I'm following a design in Figma, just for those as well, following. So trying to go over. I should have posted like a screenshot. It's an education dashboard.
Nice.
So
nice. Logan, I know you asked the question, how important do you think it is? Man, this might be a competitive question between Andrew and I as well. How important do you think it is to design a mockup or wireframe first in something like Figma or other tools, then go into FlutterFlow and build it? So I'll start. I am a Figma guy, Figma and Adobe XD. Andrew, from what I understand, you're definitely a Sketch user. Is that right?
I am, but I'm using a Figma file, right? Like
Nice.
I'm sort of ambivalent on the fact I do use. Uh, I've been a sketch guy from the beginning, so I enjoy that. I've optimized my workflow, all sorts of good stuff there. But I can use Figma. I like it auto layout. This design is from a Figma file, so all good. I think the core of the question is, where is that one? Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
All right. How important do you think? Yeah, I do enjoy starting in a design software personally. And Will, you can answer as well. I mentioned this last week. Like, I think it's important to sort of sketch out an idea in a design software where you can drag boxes around. You have free form, stuff. You can really create anything you want. You can create iterations of everything you want. So I could create this dashboard like 4 times, and it'd be like fine. So all sorts of things like that. And then I like to implement into FlutterFlow. Once I'm in FlutterFlow and I have like the general concept, I will iterate just in FlutterFlow. It's a lot faster, and I don't have to keep 2 sources of truth. So personally, that's the way I do it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to your your workflow, like if you're in an agency, obviously it's a lot different than when you're working individually. Personally, I have no like, like technical design training per se. So when it comes to FlutterFlow, I was always the type to just dive right into FlutterFlow. For me, at least in the use cases where I was building, it was almost like time was of the essence. So I just went right in and started building. But that's not always really the best technique. I definitely stick with Andrew and recommend, if you can, if you have the opportunity, access to those platforms, try to build out the design first, because at the end of the day, one, it's going to probably be a more user friendly, more optimized design, right? Most often the first design you come up with is never the ending design that you
Very
launch
true.
or push. So doing that in Figma first and being able to drag that anywhere, or Adobe XD or Sketch, is going to save you a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true, right? Like it does depend on your workflow, your agency workflow, Flutter, your freelancer workflow, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like to optimize my workflow. So some
Mm-hmm.
would think, oh, I just do it in FlutterFlow because it's way faster. For me personally, um, it's faster for me to. It's like Figma has now become my sketch pad, right? Coming from the design world, it's very common to like literally sketch on a pad, like different wireframes and user flows and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now Figma or Sketch is my sketch pad. Like that's me drawing stuff out. As you can see,
Nice.
where's my Figma file? I have my Figma. Oh yeah, duh, I moved it. Give me 1 second. Let me move that
Nice.
back. So we'll just showcase this
Nice.
little guy. This is now my, sketch pad. I'm able to sort of iterate quickly, come up with designs, utilize different components, you know,
Yeah, that's
try
great.
different things. So, and then I'm able to implement this stuff into FlutterFlow so easy because I have like a skeleton,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's very few cases where um, design and development is done by the same person. And
Yeah.
some of you guys, I know, right? I know how it is to be a freelancer, a contractor, an agency. Like sometimes it's all on you, which is why we're doing these live streams, right? Like I want to help you guys learn how to design and how to use best practices, both in FlutterFlow, but also just in design, right? Like last week we talked about using a header and a subheader, spacing, font sizes, font choices. Um, all these little things add up to a
Mm-hmm.
quality product. For me as a designer, I'm very comfortable in Figma, Sketch, any design tool. I can jot these ideas down and then I can
Yeah.
actually pass it off to a developer. And the developers I work with, it's a lot easier for them in the natural flow of things to take a design and implement it into FlutterFlow rather than to be like, hey, here it is in FlutterFlow, or whatever. Like give them a skeleton and allow them to mock it up, right? As the designer, now I'm empowered, right? Because now I can implement this stuff into FlutterFlow. Before FlutterFlow,
Nice.
literally, it was like, well, maybe it will be implemented. Now I have the power to do that. So, any
Nice.
future plans of Figma import or Sketch to FlutterFlow? We'll see. We've talked about this. It's never one to one, right? Like our goal is to be able to export quality code. And typically, when you're in a program like Sketch or Figma where you are free form designing and just like creating whatever, it's not really best practice and it doesn't typically turn out the best code. There are tools that you can do this, no problem. I think our use case is a little different where we're trying to really emphasize clean code quality and
Mm-hmm.
handoff because you're able to visually build your UI, visually connect your UI, not just like build the front end. You can connect
Yeah.
databases all visually, connect conditional actions visually. All of this stuff is very awesome. Like for me, it's amazing. I couldn't do this before. Um, Now I'm empowered. And then I can actually pass it off to a development team and say, look, hey, we need this like AI
Mm-hmm.
algorithm implemented and it requires a lot of code. Can you do this? Yes. Or can I export? Can I push to GitHub? Can you add the changes? And then can we push it to deployment, which is really cool. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. I may
Nice.
not make it through the whole this whole design. Just so you guys know, I
Mm-hmm.
apologize. We're coming up to the
Yeah,
end of time.
looks pretty good though. Really good. While you're finishing that up, one other thing I wanted to mention, I think it's important when it comes to like having some sort of wireframe or mockup. Think about it in terms of like our use case, right? From FlutterFlow's perspective. So if we just have only components and pre-made templates, but we offer the community no Figma file, it's very challenging, right? And so that's something Andrew has really taken on, and hopefully you'll see some of that, in more in 2023, right? If you have a project that you're building that is somewhat customizable, it's really helpful for users when you can provide them with a Figma or Sketch file, because then they can customize it
Yep.
and then see what it's going to look like and go from there.
Very
Another
true.
question, and this is actually something that I came across this week for a project I was building out. So actually might add this to the FlutterFlow backlog. When for the pin code widget, right? Pin code widget only has a typical keyboard with all the letters and everything. There's no keyboard
Yep.
customization. So you could type the letter H into your pin code. So I agree with that. I think that's something I'll suggest to the team. So maybe we can just have a numbers only pin pad. That way you can really recreate the feel of just typing in like a pin pad to unlock a page or something.
Yep. Cool.
Nice.
So we could duplicate this as well. Do the same thing that we did before, right? Duplicate it and set these guys. We'll unexpand them for now.
Nice.
They'll look funky. We're just going to replace this with a column, and then we can actually do full width on those and on those. Set 16 pixel padding.
Nice.
16 pixel padding. And then we'll
Side
again just,
question. Yeah, any plans
yes.
coming to local states? Yeah, we're working on something to release in February, so stay tuned for that. Again, you can follow us on socials, join the community. If you're a FlutterFlow member, you should be getting our What's New in FlutterFlow emails, so you'll also see changes there. So stay on the lookout for that. Hopefully, most of you will be excited.
Yeah. Yeah. Big changes. I mean, like, pretty big changes coming to that. So it's going to be a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
nice.
So
Wow, that
awesome.
looks
Guys,
fantastic, Andrew. I'm impressed.
yeah. I mean, I think we like almost got there. I mean, there's little things that we could do.
Yeah.
I did a user table down here instead of these cards, but utilizing templates, hey, gotta love it. Um, overall, not bad. I hope this makes sense and works. Um, yeah, we have some errors just because of this line chart and the nav bar, but beyond
Hmm.
that, this is good to go. Um, I'll just, I mean, I can create this as a clone. You guys can have it in the chat. You guys can access it whenever. Um, that way, I think this will live on YouTube. So just make
Nice.
it so you guys can actually edit this. I think that's the coolest thing. Just seeing how other people build, being able to edit it. Oh, Joshua Arnold. Oh, I have a friend on the live stream. What can we do with blockchain? You can build blockchain apps on FlutterFlow. It does require some
Some code. Yeah.
intricate integrations. Yeah, like you do need a developer for it. But I know that James from Left Field Brands has done multiple blockchain apps. So it is possible to
Wow.
do this and integrate wallets and everything. It's impressive, like really impressive. But yeah, I think he would like to sell that stuff eventually, because he already built it, provide it for the community. So you can totally do it.
Nice.
Cool. Awesome.
Any other remaining questions here? Just to circle up today so far, right? So made some fantastic work on this web app, responsive web app and mobile app. It's a dashboard that Andrew made from a Figma file. He sent the link in the chat as well. You can find that. Just a review, like we said, Flutterflow has had a fantastic week. Presenting yesterday morning for Flutter Forward, So that was a fantastic opportunity to share FlutterFlow with a global community of Flutter developers. And then also Andrew and some other team members had the opportunity to share a fantastic tutorial on AI image generation and how to build an app in FlutterFlow. So you can find all that after this live stream on the Flutter YouTube channel. Again, not FlutterFlow, the Flutter official YouTube channel. You
Yeah.
can search that.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll try to make this. It's not just push notification. It is push notification and also like an activity stream. So currently, when you
Mm-hmm.
send push notifications, there's no like collection you can call currently.
Yeah.
So what I typically do is I create a second collection of activity. And as you saw on that Kanban board app, like this activity stream is actually like my activity collection, and uh, each of these things would link to a push notification. So when you get a push notification, you'd be able to click on this and basically go to that activity collection as well.
Nice.
So it's this, but also providing this. I'll show you the collection. Sorry, I know we're over, guys. Will, I'm sorry. I know you have a lot to do,
No,
as
this
do
is good.
I.
That's why I'm here, right? That's why
Yeah,
we're here.
but I will. I'll do this. I just want to showcase this collection because it is sort of
Very cool. Yeah.
interesting. So activity here.
If you can zoom in on your
So
desktop like twice,
yeah,
that would be
here
awesome.
I'm gonna do this.
Cool.
I'm gonna make this smaller, and then I'm gonna just.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Oh, does that
Perfect.
work? Yeah.
Yep. That's
All
great.
right. This is the activity stream. For every push notification, I would also create an activity to go along with it. I would give it all of these things. These are the important points, right? The other user, right, is important. So when I'm posting on somebody else's post, the other user would be the owner of that post. The target user ref, this would be a list of users. So if there was this one and this one would almost be different. So target user ref is whoever's associated with that notification. They're here. Um, and then unread by user. This is what triggers the
Mm-hmm.
unread versus read version. So once you've clicked on one of those notifications, if I logged into another one, you could actually see this. I apologize that I'm not. But you get a list and a notification of how many unread notifications you have. You're able to click each one and basically be added to this or be removed from this unread by user group, and then it removes the number in this top here.
Wow.
So,
Nice.
which is like I would say almost super advanced. That's me personally.
Yeah. No,
I
it
really
is.
enjoyed
That's
it.
pretty cool.
I was blown away. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. So it's really cool. But
Nice.
that's how I do that. We'll try to get we'll try to get a tutorial around that, how to do that, how to set it up. Either Will or I. We both have a lot on our plates, and that's sort of why we're doing this live stream, is so that we can just ad lib a little bit and go over stuff, give you guys some tips and tricks to build,
Mm-hmm.
where we don't have to come up with a script and all that stuff. So I hope this is beneficial. Thank you guys for joining. And I hope that this helps you build better apps in FlutterFlow and ultimately deliver better apps to your clients and produce better apps so that you can get more clients or
Mm-hmm.
more projects. So I
Nice.
have some little minions coming in and attacking me. So I will bid adieu. I
Awesome.
hope you guys are well and enjoy your week.
Yep.
Note for next week, we may be off next week. We have a team trip we're taking. We're all going to be together. We're going to be in a different time zone, so it'll be pretty late where we're at. We may have to skip next week and then come
Yeah.
back again the following. So
Awesome.